screen um, to kind of begin to talk about our, I'm trying to move my, uh, I want to make it full screen. Let me see if I can. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make my screen full screen without. Let me stop sharing for 1 minute and let me. We're going to talk about Great American Teach-In, a virtual and a face-to-face experience. And as you all know, it's going to be Wednesday, November the 17th, 2021. For high school, it starts as early as probably about 7:15 until about that afternoon. And so for middle school, it will start around 9:40 and it conclude about 4:10. And for elementary, I think the latest elementary school will start about 8:45, and then it will move on until about 2:30, or for those schools that end as late as 3:30. So I want to talk about all of you, and I think Mrs. Elena Ducey has sent you the registration form using the link. Every year we partner with Duke Energy, but all Duke Energy usually does is just send us the hard copies of the flyers as well as the certificate. Previously, they would, donation of funds, they were really engaged, but I haven't heard from Duke Energy this year. But I do want you to know we do have some leftover certificates with Duke Energy's logo. And so we will be sending those out, and it's okay to move forward to use those certificates in addition to the certificate that was made and sent out as well. So we will, but the registration link is for you to send out to your possible speakers or post on your webpage, because we do have it posted on our website. But I want to talk about as far as your Zoom account or because of your virtual, the platform from Zoom or either Microsoft Teams. It is all up to you which one you're comfortable with. Right now, the free Zoom will carry the same abilities as it does with we did last year, but I want to say this to you regarding the Zoom. Each teacher will need to create their own Zoom account. They will need to create a free account if they do not have it. And they can still go over 40 minutes for a presentation. Why is that important? Because if you have a Zoom account, you cannot simultaneously use your Zoom account along with other individuals on your Zoom account trying to bring in their individual speakers. So it's very important. And I need to go back and say that again. Teachers will need to create their own a Zoom account. They already have a Microsoft Teams account, but once they identify their speakers, then they need to send, or if they do not have a Teams, you will need to communicate, or they will need to communicate to the speaker that they will need to download the Microsoft Teams application. Most people have Microsoft, and so they probably will have access to Teams, but they will definitely need to download the Teams application. The Family Engagement Liaison, you all can help recruit speakers for teachers if needed. You can devise your calendar, setting it up as a whole school session. What do I mean by that? Once you decide how you want to set up, particularly if the majority of teachers are going to do virtual, if you have a fifth grade teacher that just say this person has gone out and got a speaker that is going to talk about marine science and it's going to be virtual, this will be an opportunity for you then to be able to say, we have a listing within our school of live presentations or recorded presentations, or if they've created a YouTube out of their presentation, that any teacher can access that presentation in their classroom. So that's the nice thing about virtual. If I in my classroom has a particular presentation, I can let pretty much all my other teachers know, and they could use the link and join right in the same time that that presentation is taking place. Or if it's pre-recorded, again, they can use the pre-recorded link. Teachers can tag team with other teachers to increase the opportunity of wide range topics. What do I mean by that? Just say you have a kindergarten, or if you have a group of teachers in kindergarten, and each teacher that teaches kindergarten is assigned to create or to find 5 key speakers. You come up, if you have 3 to 4 teachers, you have 12 opportunities to really share with your classrooms. And you have to be able to know Great American Teaching is all day. So when you think about pretty much 6 hours and each presentation for 45 minutes, you can have about 15 topics, but you only really need about 6 presentations. But that's an opportunity for you to wide range, for opportunity for the topics to be wide range. There is an existing list of approved speakers already listed on our district website. It is probably about, I want to say maybe 30 presentations that have already been converted to YouTube. To YouTube. You can utilize that speaker list. And you might not need to solicit any more speakers. But in addition to, that's the virtual component. But if you are seeking to have a face-to-face speaker come into your classroom, because we have not, let me go back, we'll talk about the Zoom feature in a few minutes. Our district is still permitting face-to-face and virtual. I would advise that you speak with your principal to make sure if you have face-to-face speakers that it is set up that you have someone to escort that speaker, that that speaker understands that they are to remain in that classroom. If they are to leave that classroom, they must be escorted back to the front office. Now, this is Dr. Brown. I will also recommend that that speaker wears a mask. If that speaker does not wear a mask, that means that teacher will need to communicate to the parents that they're going to have a speaker and the speaker will be unmasked. So those parents will have an opportunity, A, to say, I do not want my student to participate, or B, they will send their own students to school with a mask. So those are some of the convoluted pieces you will have to really work out with your administrator, with your principal, And of course, with the teacher, if you're going to be bringing in face-to-face speakers. And we'll have an opportunity to talk about those. I know I have 30 minutes, but this is recorded and you can get it once we're done. Again, the free Zoom security features, the free basic single user Zoom account received updated security features. And I know there was a concern about that last year, but Zoom has, of course, increased their Zoom safety features. In addition to that, when we talk about Microsoft Teams has also increased their features, because last year there was a limited number of attendees, but now with Microsoft Teams updating all their features, that is no longer an issue. So again, Microsoft Teams has the same features as Zoom, and of course it's free. I'm going to ask if you could please keep your microphones muted, and then at the end we can either put questions in the chat or we can just unmute and ask your questions. Again, virtual planning is going to be is really going to be up to the community liaison. Again, due to COVID, Great American Teach-In can be both virtual and face-to-face. So make sure you create a brief Microsoft form survey. And I would send that out to your teachers so they can fill it out, and it'll pre-populate into an Excel spreadsheet so you don't have to be running around doing all the work. Once they secure a speaker, they fill out that form and it'll populate automatically back to you. And once you conclude all the speakers, then you can create a library to send to all your teachers. Again, create a school-wide listing of pre-recorded sessions, and we've already spoke about that. Staff can create individualized sessions and speakers. What do I mean by that? Being virtual, you can go beyond the state. And if there's a great opportunity for a speaker, just say the speaker is at an aquarium and they really want to show some of the show some of the different things at their aquarium, they can do it live. A teacher can create that and do it live. Again, requested speakers wear a mask if they want to come in face to face. Otherwise, the teacher will have to inform all parents about the no mask teacher. So again, that's all the inner workings of the teacher and the speaker, but definitely coordinate that with your principal so they know who's on their campus and whether or not they are wearing a mask in the event something happens with that speaker being in your classroom or a student alleged that they, contacted COVID via a speaker. So we want to make sure all of our bases are covered. And I'm quite sure all of you know now how to create a Zoom account. You just click open Zoom app on your Mac or PC, sign in, make sure you click the sign up for free. This will automatically open the Zoom website on your default browser. Enter your email, your school address. This is not limited on minutes, and click the blue sign up button and you're all set. So it's easy as pie to actually sign up for a Zoom account. Now, how do you schedule a speaker session? Getting started guide for new users. Learn the first step of creating and using your Zoom account. There is a frequently asked question for users. So you can click on that and I'm quite sure all of the questions that you might have will be on that frequently asked question. Scheduling meetings, learn how to schedule a meeting across the Zoom platform. Inviting others to join a meeting is very clear. You will just be needing, you just will need to send the link to the individuals you want to invite. Sharing your screen, do not do like Dr. Britt. Be very prepared when you share your screen. You highlight what you want to share and hit share, and it's as simple as that. If you forget your password, you just reset your password. Very simple. Some of you have already worked with Microsoft Teams. It might not be as nearly as convoluted as these instructions, but I will make sure you practice and prepare so that if you're giving instruction to the staff, that it is all correct and aligned. But most teachers, I know they've used Canvas, but they are very, very knowledgeable in Microsoft Teams. So we created a Great American Teaching reporting form. And so with this reporting form, by November the 30th, you will need to fill this out. And once you fill it out and click submit, it's going to populate back to Mrs. Lenarduzzi and I in a response that we could create an Excel spreadsheet. Why is this so important that you do this? As we mentioned earlier, is that we're going to be doing a lot of reporting to our area superintendents who will then be receiving information to go back and talk with the principals. So if you did an awesome job with Great American Teaching, but you have not filled out this form, it's going to appear that your school did not participate in any form of any fashion whatsoever. But the form is going to ask the name of the school. Then it's going to ask the coordinator of Great American Teaching, because oftentimes, if there's no liaison, the principal appoints another person to actually coordinate the Great American Teaching. It's going to ask you the number of speakers and the number of presentations. What do I mean by that? I can have one speaker that can actually complete 6 presentations. I can have 2 speakers that a total they have completed only 4 presentations. So at the end of the form, I can have almost just say 100 presentations, but only 12 speakers. And so that's why it's important to make sure you count your presentations as well as your speakers. If you have a speaker that's face-to-face, is coming into the school, but they're going to remain with that one teacher, that is going to be one teacher, one presentation. But if that same presenter will attend 5 different classrooms, is one speaker, 5 presentations. And so I think that concludes some of the pieces that I wanted to highlight about how you begin to set it up, what you need to do. But what I want to do now is really open it up for any questions so we can clarify. But before we go into clarifying, I want you to be very clear. You can bring in face-to-face as well as virtual. Very clear about whichever platform of both platforms that you sit down with your manager, which should be an AP or your principal, to discuss your plan for Great American Teaching. I will advise that you create your own Microsoft form, send that link to your individual teachers with instructions of if they are inviting someone or if they plan to have several virtual YouTube videos, that they put those individual presentations in that Zoom Microsoft form. So for an example, for elementary, because you do not change teachers, but because you're 6 hours in the same classroom, you could see 6 different presentations. For high school, it's a revolving door. And so you can go into, one student can go into a classroom and just get every period, every change, they will probably see a different presentation. And you want to be able to capture that. The same with middle school. So if there is a auditorium presentation and you have one keynote speaker, but there are 6 classrooms that are coming to the auditorium, that's 6 presentations. Because you have 6 different teachers. You're not counting students. You're counting the number of individual classrooms that the speaker presented to. So on high school, you could fill an auditorium with 30 teachers in their classroom because you have space for almost 800 seats. But you have one presenter, but then you have 30 presentations for that one period. So are there any questions that Mrs. Lenarduzzi and I can answer at this time?
Yes, Dr. Brim, I have a question. I did not participate in GADI last year. So my question is, the survey form that you mentioned in getting the topics from the teachers, is that a standard form or is that one that I would create and send out to the teachers?
That you will create. But what we can do, because I'll look to see if I have a standard form, if we didn't do that already, and send that out. But if it's easier, what I can do is send that out to you. We could create that, send it out to you, but give you edit and view permissions. So then you can go in. Yeah, I'm not sure if you tweak it, is it going to tweak it for everyone? No, that's not a good idea. The only way that you can, create your own style is you need to create your own form. Okay. But if we send it out, you have to use it as is.
Okay, that's fine. I just need kind of a prototype of what it should look like, kind of the flavor of what it should be. So that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so let me say this, and I thank you for that. If you have someone that is going to speak on something that I would consider controversial. What do I mean by controversial? That you might have someone come in and want to speak about racial inequities and diversity and the stuff that's taking place in the country. You want to be very careful and run that by your supervisors. You want to stay away from topics that's going to lend biased lens to students without their parents having any knowledge of those pieces. For an example, topics on the safety of sex. I'm just going to say something. That's a no-no. Vaping or drugs. That's a no. You want to connect to Ashley Grimes of any health, any drugs, all of those major topics, you want to get an okay on. And you also want the teacher to inform the students, parents, that they're going to have a slightly different topic that could be controversial so that parents have an opportunity to opt out. Because Ashley Grimes committee actually reviews all of our speakers that are controversial. They have to meet with her and they actually have to present their material. So there's a little process to it. The other thing I want to caution you about that we've had in the past, and I hope no one takes this personally, but I do want to caution you. We've had individuals that have awesome topics. The description is matches the topic. Just say mental health and wellness. I'm just going to use that as an example, which is a popular topic. But when they arrive or when they begin to speak, it's a Scientologist that then want to bring in their Scientology view. You want to immediately, if it's face to face, bring that to a halt, because we are not permitted for anyone to come in and really share their religious views. So we want to be cautious of that, because we've had horrible experiences that we don't find that out until they're actually presenting. The other piece, it was another thought when I was talking about that. Your pre-recorded videos. It could be very time consuming, but I would, in the instructions to your teachers, that they view the YouTube video that they receive from their keynote speaker. Why? You want to make sure there's no profanity. You want to make sure there's no comment that could easily offend your students. You want to just be very careful, and you just do not want to automatically assume, even if you know the speaker, your best friend, you don't want to automatically assume that the presentation is okay. So you want to make sure in your instruction to the teacher that they review the YouTube videos. Even in a form, that could be one of the questions that you can ask the teacher. Have you reviewed the YouTube video? If they say yes, then you can go ahead and add it to your library. If they say no, then there needs to be some level of communication that they need to review that video, because once they upload it for it to be attached to your library, it needs to be okay. I am so sorry. It needs to be okay. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. I see some other questions. Yes. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, Deborah. No, that's not. I thought it was. Any other questions? Oh, no questions?
I did actually.
Okay.
Just to make sure that I'm clear, if we have on-campus speakers, we don't need to run them through background check for at least level 1. We just need to make sure that they're, on the list, the administration is aware, and that they're escorted back and forth.
That is correct. Now, let me make sure that you all understand. Great American Teach-In is the only event that you do not need to background screen your speakers. Now, just say, or have them go through the volunteer approve or require them to register. None of that is required for Great American Teach-In. But if you have a speaker that wants to return, that person needs to be registered and fill out a volunteer registration form, because they're returning now as a official speaker at your school. I mean, all of them official, but not Great American Teach-In speaker. So yes, they do not have to register. They do not need to be background checked, but you do need to have an ongoing list of who's on your campus and where they are located. Make sure you know who's on your campus and where they're located. Please be sure that in your correspondence to your teachers, they need to understand you need a record of any speakers that's on campus and their location.
I created, we didn't end up having any, of course, on campus last year for the Black American Speak-In, but I'm assuming that would be the same thing. They don't have to be registered volunteers or in the system for that either.
Okay, so for the African American history, last year they were granted that because
Okay.
it was a district-wide effort. Yes,
Okay.
but they were granted that from top level.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I created for that, even though they weren't on campus, but it would be the same type of form. The speakers, the time frames, if it was a live presentation, if it was pre-recorded, what teachers were going to be accessing it, what grade level. And so for Great American, I was thinking I would just extend that to have the locations on that form, and then also a separate sign-in form just for Gotti up at our front desk. So when they come in, they have their own sign-in sheet, and that way it'll be a copy of it in our regular visitor log, at the end of the day, but then one to keep separate as well. So we know, so the front office and whoever wants to can come up to the front office and see who's supposed to be where during the day.
Yes, that's great. If you want to share your form, you can send it to Mrs. Lenarduzzi and
Okay.
she could share it, or you could just share it to other liaisons directly. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we used to have actually the speaker badge. I'm not sure we have any of them left over, but if that is the case, we will send them out along with the certificate presentation. Otherwise, if you do have face-to-face, you want to make sure they have a visitor pass on them at all times.
Hi, Dr. Brim. We have a couple questions, and I think we've sort of answered this, but I'm going to read it out loud. How do we manage supervising virtual and face-to-face presentations at the actual event?
Okay, so by the time you have the Great American Teach-In, your virtual presentations have already been vetted. In your teacher collection of data process, the topic, the subject, reviewed. So you don't need to really worry about the day of as it relates to virtual. You would just really need to manage those face-to-face visits.
Thank you. And then Joyce asked, the Great American Teach-In report that needs to be reported, is that with the rest of the forms that we can print out? Joyce, is that the one that you're talking about that's going to be the Microsoft form template? Yes. So I'm actually, and Dr. Brim can respond to this also, but this is a form that was just recently developed. So as a follow-up to this meeting, I'm going to send that link to you guys, to all the liaisons, so you have it. If you scan the QR code or you didn't, that's okay. I'll send the link and then you can click on that to do the reporting. Dr. Brim, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's it. Oh, the last thing is you evaluate your day so that not only do we capture your information, but we have some level of, oh, my day was awesome. You give it 5 stars. If it's a 1, and I'm hoping that it's not a 1, then you give it a 1. So then we'll know at least for the following year how to support you a little bit more to make sure your GATI day is a lot more successful. Okay, so thank you very much. That concludes my presentation. Any other questions? Oh, awesome. Okay, you all have a wonderful day and thank you.